Today we're leaving the beautiful city of Prague behind and taking a 1-hour journey east to one of Czechia's most fascinating UNESCO World Heritage destinations, Kutná Hora. Once considered one of Europe's wealthiest medieval cities, Kutná Hora was built on vast silver deposits that helped shape the economy of an entire kingdom. Today, visitors come from around the world to explore its stunning Gothic architecture, centuries of history, and one of the most unusual attractions anywhere on Earth, the Bone Church. Join us as we discover why this small town is one of the best day trips you can take from Prague. We leave Prague with our friend Alex and head about 80 kilometers or about 50 miles east towards Kutná Hora. The drive takes roughly an hour and quickly transitions from busy city streets to peaceful countryside dotted with farms, forests, and charming villages. Our first stop in Kutná Hora is one of the world's most unusual and unforgettable landmarks, the Bone Church, officially known as Sedlec Ossuary. Inside are the skeletal remains of an estimated 40,000 to 70,000 people whose bones were artistically arranged into chandeliers, coat of arms, pyramids, and decorative displays. Many of these remains came from plague victims and casualties of the Hussite Wars during the 14th and 15th centuries. While it may seem eerie at first, it's actually a powerful reminder of mortality and the shared humanity that connects us all. Over the centuries, victims of the Black Death and the Hussite Wars were laid to rest, eventually creating a need for additional space. In 1870, a local woodcarver named František Rindt was commissioned to organize the bones into the incredible artistic displays we see today. One of the chapel's most remarkable features is this massive chandelier made entirely from human bones. It contains at least one example of every bone found in the human body and has become the iconic symbol of the Bone Church. The incredible craftsmanship transforms something unexpected into a work of art that visitors never forget. Despite welcoming thousands of visitors every day, the Bone Church remains an active place of remembrance. Visitors are asked to speak quietly, move respectfully, and remember that these are the remains of real people who lived hundreds of years ago. That sense of reverence is part of what makes this experience so unique. Surrounding the Bone Church is the historic Sedlec Cemetery, which was once considered one of the most desirable burial places in Central Europe. In 1278, an abbot returned from Jerusalem with a small amount of soil from the Holy Land and sprinkled it over the cemetery grounds, attracting thousands of people who wished to be buried here. As you walk through the peaceful cemetery outside, it's hard to imagine that this quiet place was once one of Europe's largest burial grounds. The rows of graves and towering trees create a serene atmosphere that perfectly contrasts with the extraordinary sights waiting inside the Bone Church. Even if you don't plan to spend much time here, the cemetery is worth exploring. Its quiet pathways, historic gravestones, and centuries of history offer a chance to slow down and reflect before experiencing one of Czechia's most unique landmarks. Many visitors don't realize that the Bone Church is actually a two-story building. The famous bone displays are located downstairs in the ossuary, but above us is the upper chapel of the Cemetery Church of All Saints, a sacred space that was originally built for worship and remembrance. The church was constructed in the 14th century as part of the nearby Cistercian monastery. While the lower level was used to store the bones of those exhumed from the overcrowded cemetery, the upper chapel was where priests held memorial masses and families gathered to honor the deceased. The building was heavily damaged during the Hussite Wars in 1421 and remained in poor condition for centuries. In the early 1700s, renowned architect Jan Blažej Santini Eichel redesigned and restored the church, blending Gothic and Baroque elements into the beautiful structure visitors see today. What makes this space so meaningful is its purpose. The upper church represents life, prayer, and remembrance, while the ossuary below serves as a powerful reminder of mortality. Together, they tell a story that's both spiritual and deeply human. Standing down the street from the Bone Church is one of the oldest Gothic cathedrals in Czechia, the Cathedral of Assumption of Our Lady and St. John the Baptist. Long before the Bone Church became world famous, this cathedral was already one of the most important religious buildings in all of Bohemia. Construction began around 1290 as part of the powerful Sedlec Monastery, the first Cistercian monastery established in the Czech lands. At the time, Kutná Hora's booming silver mines were generating enormous wealth, allowing the monks to build an impressive church that reflected the city's growing influence. The cathedral's history has not always been peaceful. In 1421, during the Hussite Wars, invading forces attacked and burned much of the monastery complex, leaving the cathedral severely damaged. For nearly 300 years, portions of the building remain in ruins, standing as a reminder of one of the most turbulent periods in Czech history. Today, the cathedral is part of Kutná Hora's UNESCO World Heritage designation, recognized for its extraordinary architecture and historical importance. Although many visitors come primarily to see the bone church up the street, this cathedral is considered one of the most significant religious monuments in the entire country. Inside, you'll see an incredible sense of openness and light, something that's unusual for churches built during this period. The soaring ceilings, elegant arches, and restored frescoes create a peaceful atmosphere that contrasts beautifully with the dark and more dramatic experience of the bone church. This spiral staircase inside the cathedral is extraordinary in that it's a self-supporting spiral staircase, meaning it doesn't have a central support column like most spiral staircases. Instead, the stone steps support one another and distribute their weight outward into the surrounding walls. It's considered an engineering masterpiece and is extremely rare. The prosperity of this cathedral was directly connected to Kutná Hora's silver mines. During the 13th and 14th centuries, the city became one of Europe's richest mining centers, and the wealth generated here helped finance the construction of churches, monasteries, and public buildings throughout the region. Kutná Hora was founded in the 12th century after rich silver deposits were discovered nearby. By the 14th century, it had become the second most important city in the Kingdom of Bohemia, rivaling Prague itself. Much of Europe's silver currency was minted here, bringing enormous wealth and influence. Kutná Hora prospered throughout the Middle Ages, but gradually declined after its silver mines became exhausted in the 16th century. Under the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the city transformed from a mining powerhouse into a quieter regional center known for its historical significance and beautiful churches. The 1920 Treaty of Trianon primarily redrew Hungary's borders and had little direct impact on Kutná Hora. By this time, Kutná Hora was part of the newly established Czechoslovakia following the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire after World War I. Following World War II, Czechoslovakia fell under Soviet influence. Communist rule nationalized industries, restricted private enterprise, and many historic buildings suffered from limited preservation funding. Nevertheless, Kutná Hora retained its cultural importance. The 1989 Velvet Revolution peacefully ended communist rule. In 1993, Czechoslovakia split into the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Since then, Kutná Hora has undergone extensive restoration and tourism has flourished. Kutná Hora has about 21,000 residents, making it a relatively small city compared to Prague's 1.4 million people, or Brno's 400,000 residents. It ranks among Czechia's smaller regional cities, which makes its incredible historical importance even more remarkable. Standing before us is Kutná Hora's Plague Column, or Column of the Immaculate Virgin Mary. It stands on Šultisova Street and is a beautiful Baroque monument built between 1713 and 1715, after a devastating plague epidemic claimed the lives of more than 1,000 residents. Throughout Europe, cities built these columns as symbols of gratitude and hope after surviving deadly outbreaks, and Kutná Hora created one of its most impressive examples. At the top stands the Virgin Mary Immaculate, while the base is decorated with saints and sculptures honoring the city's most famous silver miners. Zvaný u mramorů, the house called at the marbles, is one of those hidden gems in Kutná Hora that many visitors walk past without realizing its significance. It's an elegant 16th century Renaissance townhouse built using portions of two older Gothic houses that once occupied the site. Today it's considered one of the finest examples of Renaissance residential architecture remaining in Kutná Hora. One of its most striking features is its ornate stone entrance portal, which is among the most impressive Renaissance doorways in the city. The streets are actually one of our favorite things about Kutná Hora because they make you feel like you've stepped back 600 years. This area preserves much of the original medieval street layout. Unlike Prague, which was rebuilt and expanded over many centuries, Kutná Hora kept many of its narrow, winding lanes that were originally designed for miners, merchants, horses, and handcarts, not modern automobiles. From this location, you can see the Jesuit College and St. Barbara's Church. This impressive 17th century Jesuit College was built to strengthen Catholic influence during the Counter-Reformation. Today, the building houses an art gallery and museum exhibits. The terrace outside offers one of the most beautiful panoramic views in all of Kutná Hora, overlooking the surrounding countryside. The terrace along Barborská Street between the Jesuit College and St. Barbara's Church contains 13 Baroque statues of saints that were installed between 1707 and 1716, with an additional statue added later in the 18th century. These statues are one of Kutná Hora's hidden masterpieces, and they're deliberately modeled after Prague's famous Charles Bridge. Along the way is Corpus Christi Chapel. Although it looks unfinished, it was originally designed to serve as an ossuary and gathering place for pilgrims. Construction began in the 14th century, and today its open arches provide incredible views towards St. Barbara's Church and the valley below. Our walk finally gets us to St. Barbara's Church. It's the crown jewel of Kutná Hora and one of the most beautiful Gothic churches in Europe. Construction began in 1388 and continued for more than 500 years. Dedicated to St. Barbara, the patron saint of miners, the church symbolizes the wealth generated by Kutná Hora's silver mines. Inside, you'll find magnificent stained glass windows, elaborate frescoes, and breathtaking vaulted ceilings. Facing northeast from this location, you can see the wonderful sights of Kutná Hora. After a day of sightseeing, we're stopping at Restaurace Dačický, one of Kutná Hora's most beloved traditional Czech restaurants. It's the perfect place to try local specialties such as Moravian smoked pork and pork knuckle, all served with classic Czech dumplings and a cold Czech beer. Today, Kutná Hora welcomes about 1 million visitors each year, making it one of Czechia's most popular destinations outside of Prague. The best times to visit are during late April through June and September through October, when temperatures are pleasant and crowds are smaller. Summer offers longer days, but can be much busier, especially around the Bone Church and St. Barbara's Church. Whether you're fascinated by medieval history, Gothic architecture, or unique experiences unlike anywhere else in the world, Kutná Hora is a day trip you'll never forget. We want to thank our friend Alex for being our driver and guide in our tour of Kutná Hora. If you enjoyed exploring with us today, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us on our next adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next amazing video.